Have you ever wondered what awaits us at the end of life's path? Will this fragile self dissolve into nothingness, like dewdrop vanishing on a leaf? Or will a mystical gate open, leading us into realms that the limited imagination of humankind can scarcely conceive? Welcome, fellow soul traveler, to the very heart of all mysteries. Today, we will together turn the pages of an ancient book, exploring one of the most profound and captivating works of Tibetan Buddhism, Bardo Thodol, which the West often refers to by its evocative name, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Imagine a silent companion, a devoted guide, ready to stand by your side in the deepest and most enigmatic moments of your journey of existence. That is the wondrous role of the Bardo Thodol. And please, do not mistake it for a mere dry manual on the end of life. It is a detailed spiritual map, a celestial navigation chart guiding us through the strange lands after the final breath departs the body. Are you ready for this adventure? We will cross that mystical threshold together, deciphering the hidden messages, and perhaps gain a little more understanding of the true meaning of being. The mysterious birth of the Bardo Thodol and the mark of Padmasambhava. The story of the Bardo Thodol is inextricably linked to a legendary figure, a great spiritual master of Tibetan Buddhism, Padmasambhava. Born in India and revered as the one who brought Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century, he is affectionately known by the people of this land as Guru Rinpoche, the Precious Master. Padmasambhava was not merely a learned monk, he was a profound yogi, a master of esoteric meditation techniques and the deep teachings of the spiritual current. The Bardo Thodol was born from his boundless compassion, a desire not only to illuminate the path for the living, but also for souls who have just left the earthly realm, offering them a route to liberation, even after the cord connecting them to the material world has been severed. From his early years, Padmasambhava displayed extraordinary supernatural abilities, recognized as a Mahasiddha, one who has attained the highest level of spiritual realization, possessing supernormal powers known as siddhi, capabilities that ordinary people consider miraculous. King Trisong Detsun, a visionary ruler, invited him to Tibet with the aspiration of revitalizing Buddhism, strengthening the spiritual foundations of the nation, and uniting the people under a common faith. At that time, Tibet was a crossroads of various beliefs, where shamanistic practices and the indigenous Bon animistic faith still held deep influence. This diverse, even somewhat chaotic, spiritual landscape presented considerable challenges to the spread of Buddhism. Upon arriving in Tibet, Padmasambhava faced strong resistance from local cultural and spiritual forces. The deities and spirits of the Bon tradition opposed the intrusion of Buddhism. But with his vast knowledge of magic and tantric rituals, Padmasambhava skillfully subdued and harmonized these forces. This unique integration of Bon deities and practices into Tibetan Buddhism later became a solid foundation for the flourishing of Buddhism in this land. It was for this very reason that Padmasambhava founded the first Buddhist monastery in Tibet, Samye Monastery, and began to propagate the profound teachings on the nature of mind, reality, and the endless cycle of rebirth, samsara. A profound perspective on death and the opportunity for liberation. In the philosophy of Tibetan Buddhism, death is not viewed as a final ending, but as a moment of transition, a doorway opening to latent possibilities of spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava recognized that, at the instant of departing this earthly existence, the human consciousness enters a unique state. Having shed the constraints and distractions of the physical body, the mind becomes more receptive than ever to the ultimate truths. He deeply understood that this was an unparalleled opportunity to achieve complete liberation. However, he was also acutely aware that the majority of us, when confronted with death, become entangled in illusions and fears, invisible barriers that prevent us from seizing this precious chance. His noble mission was to create a detailed guide, a spiritual companion that could be recited by loved ones beside the dying or even studied diligently in ordinary life so that the mind could be best prepared for the bardos, the enigmatic intermediate states, after the final breath fades away. In essence, he wished to alleviate suffering and unveil the path leading to enlightenment, even in those moments when everything seems uncertain and disintegrating. This boundless compassion is the very bedrock of the Bardo Thodol. He also clearly perceived that while many might not attain enlightenment during their lifetime, death itself offers a final opportunity. Therefore, he meticulously transmitted precise instructions to practitioners and disciples, enabling them to recognize the clear light, the pure manifestation of the innermost mind, at the very moment of the transition from life. The Bardo Thodol serves as a spiritual roadmap, guiding us through three primary intermediate states, or bardos, that every soul must traverse on its journey after death. Chikai Bardo, the Bardo of the moment of death. Chonid Bardo, the Bardo of luminous visions. Sidpa Bardo, the Bardo of seeking rebirth. Let us embark together into each of these bardos, drawing back the veil of mystery and uncovering the profound truths concealed within each stage of the journey beyond the final breath. First, Chikai Bardo, the moment of liberation and the primordial light. In the Chikai Bardo, the soul experiences the precise instant of death, a mystical intersection where the physical body gradually dissolves and consciousness is liberated from its material constraints. This is a pivotal stage where the ultimate potential for liberation can be fully realized. As the process of dissolution concludes, the soul unexpectedly encounters the primordial clear light, described in the Bardo Thodol as a dazzling, pure, and infinitely vast radiance. This light is not an ordinary physical phenomenon, but rather the manifestation of the absolute nature of mind, a state of pure, unconditional consciousness where all dualistic distinctions, every fear, and every attachment utterly vanish. Some refer to it as the higher self, while others call it the solar mind. By whatever name, it remains the symbol of ultimate wholeness and eternal peace. For genuine spiritual practitioners, the Chikai Bardo unlocks the final door to liberation. If the soul can recognize this clear light as its own true essence, it will attain immediate liberation, nirvana, and will not need to continue its journey through the subsequent stages of the Bardo. This recognition does not depend on any rituals or doctrines. It is a direct and complete experience of truth, where the mind beholds itself clearly, no longer obscured by any filters or distortions. In that sacred instant, all conditioning, all karmic imprints, and all layers of identification completely dissolve. However, for those who are psychologically unprepared, the sheer intensity and purity of the clear light can evoke profound terror. The mind, instead of recognizing the light as its true nature, might interpret it as a frightening threat, stemming from deep-seated fears or a powerful clinging to the familiar and tangible. In this unfortunate instance, the soul will recoil, losing the precious opportunity for liberation, and will be compelled to enter the subsequent stages of the Bardo, where it will confront increasingly distorted and limited visions, reflecting its accumulated karmic predispositions. 2. Chonade, Bardo, the realm of luminous visions. Carl Gustav Jung, the insightful psychologist, once stated, Gods and demons are nothing but projections of our own unconsciousness, powerful and inescapable until we understand them as integral parts of ourselves. In the Chonide Bardo, the soul finds itself in a state of consciousness entirely detached from the physical body, stepping into a dimension where tangible boundaries cease to exist. Here, the soul experiences the wondrous projections of its own mind, projections that can manifest as both benevolent angelic forms and terrifying horrific visions. This bardo unveils the deepest essence of the mind, where all that has been suppressed, yearned for, or dreaded throughout life rises up with greater intensity than ever before. The visions in the Chonai Bardo directly reflect the emotional states and karmic imprints that the soul has accumulated across countless lifetimes. They typically appear in two distinct forms: peaceful visions and wrathful visions. The stage of peaceful visions. Initially, the soul is greeted by serene images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, symbols of enlightenment and boundless compassion. These figures may appear as radiant Buddhas, benevolent Bodhisattvas, or luminous deities, emanating the positive qualities that the soul has diligently cultivated. The peaceful visions possess a dignified and tranquil presence, bringing a profound sense of inner peace. However, for an unprepared mind, these images can be overwhelming or incomprehensible, causing the soul to become confused, withdraw, and doubt the authenticity of this experience. The stage of wrathful visions. If the soul fails to recognize the peaceful and pure nature of the initial visions, it will gradually encounter more powerful and intense images, known as the wrathful deities. These figures are manifestations of anger, fear, and repressed desires, taking on grotesque and frightening forms. It is crucial to remember that these wrathful deities are not malevolent entities from the outside, but rather expressions of the mind itself, reflecting the passions and attachments that still bind the soul to the cycle of suffering. The Chonade Bardo is described as a state where the mind is completely liberated from all physical limitations. It is a purely psychic realm of manifestation, where everything is amplified to the highest degree. The visions that arise resemble dreams, but unlike ordinary dreams, they possess an astonishing clarity and vividness. This occurs because the mind, now freed from the confines of the body, directly experiences its inner energies in an unfiltered and unmediated way. All that has been suppressed and accumulated throughout countless lives surges forth with an almost tangible intensity. These visions are not merely meaningless phantasms, but rather precious opportunities for learning and enlightenment. Each vision represents a facet of the self that the soul needs to understand, accept, and transform. Those who manage to maintain unwavering awareness throughout this bardo can recognize that all these visions, whether peaceful or wrathful, beautiful or terrifying, are simply creations of their own mind. The realization of this profound truth empowers the soul to transcend fear and attain liberation. At this stage, the Bardo Thodol places particular emphasis on the importance of focusing on the clear light, the primordial and pure essence of the mind described as a vast and radiant aura. Recognizing the clear light is the key to achieving complete liberation, for it represents the inherent and immutable nature of all beings. It is like the brilliant sun piercing through the clouds of visions, the eternal light that remains unchanged no matter how many mental projections arise and fade away. If the soul possesses the ability to see through the superficial appearance of these visions, it can attain enlightenment and thus break free from the cycle of rebirth. However, recognizing the clear light is no easy task for the ordinary mind. For most of us, The visions appear so real and carry such personal significance that looking beyond them becomes incredibly challenging. For this very reason, the Bardo Thodol strongly encourages spiritual practitioners to cultivate detachment from illusions and engage in deep contemplation about the nature of the mind while still alive. With such diligent practice, even when confronted with the powerful visions of the Chonid Bardo, they will be better equipped to maintain their focus on the clear light and find inner peace. Fear and attachment, obstacles on the path to liberation. The visions in the Chonid Bardo, with their intensity and startling realism, can stir deep-seated fears, particularly the images of the wrathful deities, which symbolize the untamed aspects of the psyche. This fear creates a sense of separation, preventing the soul from recognizing that these visions are not external entities but rather integral parts of itself. The soul may instinctively want to flee from these frightening images, or, conversely, due to attachment, cling desperately to certain visions, especially the peaceful ones, inadvertently binding itself to the endless cycle of suffering, samsara. To transcend this cycle, the soul must achieve a profound understanding that these visions are ultimately empty of inherent existence. In the philosophy of Tibetan Buddhism, this concept is known as shunyata, or emptiness. A mind capable of remembering and contemplating emptiness throughout the Chonai Bardo can observe all visions objectively, without any attachment, realizing that they are merely temporary expressions of the mind's own nature. Therefore, the experience of the Chonai Bardo is not a form of punishment or a series of meaningless sufferings, but rather a crucial stage of revelation, where the soul directly confronts the mirror of its own mind. It is a decisive test that distinguishes those who are ready for liberation from those who still need to undergo further cycles of rebirth to deepen their learning and spiritual growth. Third, Sidpa Bardo, the final crossroads and the choice of rebirth. In the Sidpa Bardo, the final stage of the journey after death, the soul confronts a critical juncture, the choice of its next body. This choice is not a conscious decision, but is determined by the accumulated energy of all actions, thoughts, and intentions throughout life, what we know as karma. It is as if the entire preceding journey has converged upon this vital moment, where what we carry within our soul dictates our next destination in the cycle of existence. Having entered the Sidpa Bardo, the soul has already experienced the dissolution of the physical body in the Chikai Bardo and confronted the mind's projections and illusions in the Chonade Bardo. Now, it finds itself in a state of greater psychic density, where the yearning for rebirth intensifies, driven by the fears and attachments that still linger within. This very longing, as the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism clearly state, is the fundamental impetus that compels the soul to seek a new body, a new form of existence within the realm of samsara. During the Sidpa Bardo, consciousness is powerfully influenced by karmic predispositions, which act like subtle imprints left by actions from countless past lives. These imprints function as unseen magnetic forces, silently drawing the soul towards circumstances and experiences that resonate with its inner state. For instance, if the soul harbors a great deal of fear, that very fear will tend to guide it towards a rebirth where it will inevitably face similar emotions. Likewise, intense desires and uncontrolled emotions create a vortex of energy that shapes the kind of life the soul will encounter in the subsequent cycle. Throughout the Sidpa Bardo, the soul will experience a series of distinctive visions related to the process of rebirth. These visions often include images of couples engaged in union, a symbolic representation of the creation of new life. Here, the soul will be unconsciously drawn to select a new body, guided by its underlying emotional tendencies and deep-seated karmic impulses. In many passages, the Bardo Thodol advises that, upon witnessing these images, the soul should strive to maintain a state of detachment and lucid awareness. Only then can it avoid being blindly propelled into an undesirable rebirth, a life filled with suffering and misfortune. For those who possess the ability to sustain inner calm and detachment, the Siddha Bardo still offers a final opportunity for transcendence. The potential to avoid rebirth altogether, to choose the path of ultimate liberation, remains. This is the highest aspiration of dedicated spiritual practitioners, rather than continuing to cycle through existence under the sway of illusions and attachments. They must recognize that these visions are merely manifestations of their own mind, ephemeral and fundamentally empty of inherent existence. Throughout the experiences of the Siddha Bardo, consciousness feels an increasingly powerful and irresistible attraction towards a new body, a process that, according to the Bardo Thodol, can be likened to a psychic storm. The primal urge to continue existing, to once again assume a form, becomes overwhelming. The selection of a new body is not a deliberate, conscious decision. Instead, it occurs through a deep, instinctive calling, where the specific characteristics of the impending rebirth are molded by the prevailing state of mind. It is as if the next body will serve as a perfect mirror, reflecting precisely what the soul's mind needs to experience or resolve in its ongoing journey. This process of choosing also vividly reflects the core Buddhist belief that each and every rebirth presents a unique opportunity for spiritual growth and evolution. The body that the soul ultimately chooses will align most closely with its current level of karmic development and spiritual maturity. However, tragically, many individuals fail to recognize this invaluable opportunity and consequently find themselves reborn into adverse conditions where suffering unfortunately tends to perpetuate itself. Nevertheless, those who possess the wisdom to see beyond this veil of illusion can reach a profound state where, instead of succumbing to rebirth, they can merge irrevocably into the clear light, the ultimate and unchanging essence of mind. According to the Bardo Thodol, the most effective preparation for this final stage truly begins within the present lifetime. By diligently contemplating the true nature of our desires and fears while we are still alive, we gradually become more aware of the subtle impulses that are actively shaping our destiny. Consistent spiritual practices, such as mindful meditation and deep reflection on the inevitability of death, significantly strengthen our innate capacity for detachment, enabling the mind to remain unburdened by the dramatic narratives that inevitably unfold within the Siddha Bardo. Thus, the Siddha Bardo reveals a simple yet incredibly profound truth: that life and death are not separate and disconnected entities, but are deeply interconnected and mutually influential, and that the cycle of rebirth is nothing more than a continuous expression of our own choices and perceptions. By diligently freeing ourselves from the shackles of attachment and illusion, we simultaneously liberate ourselves from the endless cycle of rebirth and ultimately attain enlightenment, the transcendent state where rebirth ceases entirely because the illusion of a fixed and permanent identity has finally dissolved. Conclusion: the Bardo Thodol is not merely an ancient religious text or a collection of esoteric beliefs. It is a powerful tool for self-knowledge, a true mirror reflecting the depths of our own mind, and a detailed map guiding us through the landscape of our destiny. It teaches us that death is not the sorrowful full stop at the end of the human story, but rather a mystical gateway opening to new beginnings and fresh possibilities. As the wise spiritual teacher Ram Dass once profoundly stated, When you die, there is only one question that truly matters. How much did you love? In this profound sense, the Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to engage in deep introspection about the very nature of our own lives. Are we truly ready for this ultimate journey? Are we prepared to let go of everything that we currently believe defines who we are? Perhaps, by carefully contemplating these profound teachings, we can not only better prepare ourselves for the inevitable arrival of death, but also learn the precious art of truly living a life filled with purpose and meaning. If this journey of exploring the mysteries beyond the threshold of life has resonated with you, please consider sharing this video and subscribing to our channel so that we can continue to explore these profound topics together. We warmly invite you to share in the comments below what intrigues you most about the realm beyond death. For the path of self-knowledge is a long and winding one, and together we can unravel some of the greatest mysteries of existence. Thank you most sincerely for listening.